I almost didn't write this book. For 5 years, I worked on it, stopped, worked on it again, questioned whether anyone would care. I kept thinking, my story is too ordinary, too common. What makes me think my experience matters enough to write a whole book about it? I'm not a celebrity. I didn't overcome some dramatic tragedy. I'm just a woman who raised 3 children, went through a divorce decades ago, and had to figure out who I was when the role that defined me for over 20 years changed. That's it. That's the story. And I kept thinking, why would anyone want to read that? Then something shifted. That book is finally here. And today, I want to share why I decided to tell the story I almost didn't tell, and why your ordinary story might be the most powerful one yet. Here's the thing about writing a memoir when you're not famous. You spend a lot of time wondering if your life is interesting enough. I'd read other memoirs. People who survive incredible hardships, achieved remarkable things, lived extraordinary lives. And then I'd look at my story and think, I'm just a mom who went through what millions of other moms go through. The emptiness transition, that's universal. The identity crisis when your children don't need you every day, every mother faces that. The grief of watching them grow up and leave, that's not unique to me. So why would anyone care about my version of such a common experience? I would write chapters, then delete them. I would share pieces with friends who would say, this is so relatable. And I would think, exactly, it's too relatable. It's not special enough. For years, I went back and forth, writing, stop writing, feel inspired, feel foolish, think this matters, then think this is self-indulgent. But I kept at it, and now it's finally done. Then one day, I was talking with a woman who had just dropped a daughter off at college. She was crying, trying to apologize for crying. Imagine that. Saying things like, I know I should be proud, and I know other mothers handle this better, and I feel so stupid for being this emotional. And I said, you're not stupid. This is one of the hardest transitions a mother goes through. She looked at me and said, but nobody talks about it. Everyone acts like it's no big deal. Like you just wave goodbye and you move on with your life. I feel like I'm the only one falling apart. That's when it hit me. The reason my story felt too ordinary was exactly the reason it needed to be told. Because when millions of women are going through the same experience, but think they're the only ones struggling with it, someone needs to say, this is normal. This is hard. You're not alone. My story wasn't too common. Common stories are the ones we need most because that's where we find ourselves reflected back. See, we have this idea that stories only matters if they're extraordinary, if they're unique enough, dramatic enough, different enough from everyone else's experience. But here's what I've learned. Personal stories create universal healing precisely because they are relatable, not despite it. When I share the specific moment I stood in my kitchen, not knowing what I wanted to eat, women everywhere recognizes themselves in that. When I write about the whispers that ask, remember when you believed you had something unique to offer? That resonates because every woman has had those whispers. The details are mine, but the feelings are universal. And that is the magic of telling your ordinary story. It gives other people permission to acknowledge their own ordinary struggles. It says, if she can talk about it this openly, maybe I'm not crazy for feeling this way too. Your stories matter not because it's different from everyone else's, but because it's similar enough that someone reading it will think, oh my God, that's exactly how I feel. And if you've ever felt like your story was too ordinary to share, too common to matter, I want you to join our free community where we're learning to value our lived experiences exactly as they are. The link is below. Writing this book took me over 5 years. Not because it's particularly long, but because revisiting these memories was like picking scabs of painful wounds. I had to get honest about moments I wasn't proud of, the times I was impatient with my children, the choices I questioned, the ways I handled my divorce, and the aftermath, the years when I was figuring out who I was and definitely didn't have it together. I had to share vulnerable moments that made even me uncomfortable. The morning I chased a garbage truck barefoot, calling my daughter's nickname into the dawn air. The realization that I'd become a stranger in my own life. The slow, messy process of remembering who I was. I had to trust that my imperfect, ordinary journey would resonate with someone who needed to hear it. And I had to accept that telling the truth about motherhood, the beautiful parts and the hard parts, might make some people uncomfortable. But the women who needed this message would find themselves in these pages. So, what is slipping through my fingers really about? On the surface, it's about the emptiness transition. It's about what happens when the role that defined you for decades suddenly changes and you have to figure out who you are when you're not actively mothering someone every day. But beneath that, it's about the universal experience of loving someone so much that you lose yourself in caring for them and then having to find yourself again. It's about the grief that hit you when you realize that you did your job too well. You raised an independent child who doesn't need you the way they used to. It's about the identity crisis every mother faces when being needed was their whole purpose and suddenly they have to discover what else they are. It's about the whisper that calls you back to yourself after years of focusing on everyone else. It includes the Thrive Method Quick Start, practical tools to help you navigate your own transition. The subtitle says it all: what every mother feels, what every daughter will one day understand. The book is out now. Want to read it first? Get the free digital version. The link is below. You get immediate access to the complete story, including the Thrive Method Quick Start. Why am I sharing this now, you ask? I'm telling you about almost not writing this book because I think a lot of you have stories you're not telling. Maybe you think your experience isn't unique enough to matter. Maybe you think everyone goes through what you went through, so why would anyone care about your version? But here's the truth. Your story, the ordinary, relatable, everyone goes through this story, is the one somebody needs to hear today. The woman who thinks she's the only one struggling needs to hear that you struggle too. The woman who feels alone in her experience needs to know that you felt exactly the same way. The woman who's questioning whether her feelings are valid needs someone to say, I felt that too, and it's completely normal. We need more ordinary story. We need more honest stories about common experiences. We need more women willing to say, this is what it was really like for me. Because that's how we stop feeling alone. That's how we realize that our struggles don't make us weak or broken or different. They make us human. If you want to be part of this conversation, if you want to share your ordinary, powerful story with other women who get it, join our community. And if you'd rather own the book, it's available now on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, and other major book retailers. Links to everything are below. I almost didn't tell this story because I thought it was too ordinary. Now, I realized that was exactly why it needed to be told. Your ordinary story matters. Your common experience connects you to every woman who's lived through something similar. Your imperfect journey is the one someone needs to hear about today. Slipping through my fingers is my ordinary story, and I'm ready to share it with you. Get the free digital version or purchase it wherever books are sold. If this message resonated, if you're curious about the complete story I almost didn't tell, please subscribe. I share videos every week about the real, honest, ordinary experiences that connect us all. The full story is ready for you now. And if you know of any woman who may benefit from this video, especially those who just drop kids off in college, and if you know of any woman who may benefit from this video, please consider sharing it, especially those parents who just recently dropped kids off in college. They need to hear this.